Yo, what up gamers? Vopordark here. I'm bringing you an updated tier list for patch 11.15, which should be hitting live servers today, or the release the day that you will see this video. There's been only a couple of ADC changes, so the tier list doesn't look too much different. The only differences are I've moved Xayah from C tier, I think she was at the top of C tier, down to bottom of, or up to bottom of B tier, and I moved Caitlyn from the bottom of C tier to top of C tier. The basis for these changes is Caitlyn got her Q buffed from, well, her Q ratio got increased by 5% per level, which adds up to a total of 20% at rank 5. I don't think that's a huge buff, honestly. I don't think it has a big impact at all. I think it's very tiny. It'll just help her one-shot the casters earlier on with less AD, but it won't do that much more damage to champions, even if it like, especially through minions, but even if it doesn't hit any minions first, it's still really not that much of a damage increase, I think. So you probably won't see Caitlyn move up in priority much. I did just move her up slightly, you know, from bottom of C tier to top of C tier, because, you know, it should have some impact. Maybe it'll push her above Kai'Sa, but yeah, I don't know. Don't expect too much from that. The Xayah buff, on the other hand, I think this is a huge buff. Our cooldown got decreased by 20 seconds at rank 1. Then, again, by 5 seconds per level. Well, you know, per level of the ability. So, you have 20 seconds reduction at rank 1, and then another extra 5 seconds, then another extra 5 seconds. So it ends up with 30 seconds less reduction at rank 3. And that's pretty huge. Even the rank 1 reduction is already really huge on its own. I mean, like, the impact in a fight, like, between having your ult up or not, no matter whether it's 20 seconds or 15 seconds or 10 seconds, like, if you don't have it when you need it, that is, you know, terrible. And there's a pretty good chance that in 20 seconds you will need your ultimate. I think reduction like this on an ultimate is a pretty big thing, and especially on an ultimate like Xayah, which is a really huge impact ultimate. You know, the difference in the amount of plays that you can make, or the amount of plays that you can survive when you have your ultimate compared to when you don't have your ultimate, I think that's massive. Like, it's not something like Ezreal ult where, like, you know, you use it for harassing sometimes, maybe for finishing people off, but you don't, it's not core to your fighting, right? On Xayah, it absolutely is. Like, it is absolutely the difference between winning or losing a fight easily, you know? I think having 20 seconds reduction on that is actually massive. I've only tentatively put her at the bottom of B tier, but I don't know, this buff is kind of hard to quantify, but I expect her to maybe, like, show up somewhere around here. We'll have to see what the impact is on our win rate. If you guys saw my previous tier list, you already know that I actually already thought the Xayah was kind of underrated anyway, because I think she has really good synergy with Hail of Blades, even though nobody's using it. I think she's also really good with Navori third item, and again, nobody's using that. If you add those things into the equation, then this buff is actually probably gonna put her at, like, the top of B tier, I would say, if you are a subscriber in the Halo Blade Xayah church. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see about that. But this is, if you're a Xayah player, this is really good news. I think that's absolutely something to be super happy about. This is like the first real buff she's had in so fucking long, man. This is actually a buff that you can be happy about. Besides that, we've got the S tier, we've got Draven and Aphelios. A tier, we've got Fortune, Ezreal, Vayne, Kog'Maw, Ashe. B tier, we've got Samira, Jinx, Twitch, Jhin, Donna, Sivir, Kalista, Xayah. C tier, we've got Caitlyn, Xayah. And D tier, we've got Varus and Lucian. So, S tier, we've got Aphelios and Draven. So, Draven got buffed a few patches ago, which was like a 5% extra AD ratio on his axes, which probably actually really highlights, like, how weak the Caitlyn buff is, to be fair, because imagine, what was her increase again? Let me remind myself. 5% per level on an ability with, like, a 10-second cooldown, right? Meanwhile, we've got Draven Q, which is just, like, literally every single one of his autos with the same kind of buff, although to be fair, it doesn't scale per level. But still, it's, like, absolutely crazy, like, the difference in the level of buffs there. That buff on Caitlyn Q shouldn't be as impactful as the same buff on Draven Q. But yeah, Draven is pretty crazy right now with Essence River builds in my opinion. I think he works especially well if you're using lethality builds, but even if you're just doing shield bow, I think it's a really strong build. Actually, I think maybe his build right now, his best build right now, might not even be like prowlers. I think you might just want to do like what's his name actually? The lifesteal item. Vampiric Scepter, there we go. Vamp Scepter into Serrated Dirk. And then you build Shield Bow or Essence River, either one, and then you build the one that you didn't build. Then the Serrated Dirk would just build into Collector later on. You don't actually have to do a full lethality build. I've actually been playing that Shield Bow build where you do build the early Serrated Dirk and you also do the Essence River. That feels really strong. But I've only played it a few times. But either way, I think he's really good no matter what kind of build you're using. So long as you're using Essence River. Essence River is so good on this champion right now. Meanwhile, we got Aphelios, also got buffed a few patches ago. He got a buff on his Q and a Z, where he gets 1 AD extra per rank in the ability, and also got a buff to his lethality. I can't remember exactly the buff, but it was a pretty decent buff. And even aside from the buff, it actually opened up a new build path for Aphelios, which is instead of maxing QWE, you instead max QEW. As you can see, this now has a higher win rate. And alongside that new maxing order, you also do, instead of Kraken Slayer into Runance or Kraken Slayer into Phantom Dancer, you now do Kraken Slayer into Collector. Which, as you can see, has a pretty crazy win rate compared to these other builds. So the Aphelios buff on its own, like if you're just using the previous Aphelios build, was just decent. But the bigger issue is like the new build that is opened up is actually really insanely strong. And is single-handedly making Aphelios S tier even in solo queue. Even though he's like really hard to play and shouldn't be S tier in solo queue ever, he is. So if you're an Aphelios player, start using this build. It's crazy strong. You're missing out if you're not playing him right now with this build. Yeah, then afterwards we got Fortune. Obviously, most people aren't even using lethality anymore. Good. She's better with crit right now, but especially with Kraken Slayer into Bloodthirster, this is by far her best build. Bloodthirster has insane synergy with Misfortune, as I've explained before, but her W movement speed is only broken when she takes damage to her actual HP bar. If she has a shield, it doesn't count. So, overheal, really good on her. Get overheal on top of the Bloodthirster shield. Suddenly, it's really hard to break through that shield, the massive shield that she's got, and it's really hard to break her W. Suddenly, she's really fucking mobile, and you can't stop her moving around at like 450 movement speed, you know? I think this is a really strong build. All of this on top of the fact that she's naturally very good with lifesteal, right? Because of her passive. That build is crazy right now as well. That's why she's at the top of 8 here. Ezreal goes without saying. Super strong with Divine Sunderer. You see it every game. Vayne is really good with a bunch of different builds. Let me just get her up here. But especially with Wit's End builds. You can see it's got a really crazy win rate first item. You can see it's got a really crazy win rate second item. I really like doing Wit's End Rush into Ginsu's, you know, those kind of builds. If you've been watching my YouTube channel, I've been using that build on almost every champion lately. But it feels really good on like Ashe and Twitch as well. Those are the ones I've been trying recently, but especially on champions like Vayne, Kog'Maw. I mean, those are the champions to use this build on, right? I think that build is really strong on them at the moment. Yeah, obviously Kog'Maw, same build as Vayne. Same reason why he's strong, because those items are really strong at the moment. Got Ashe up here. Ashe really strong. Also with Wit's End, to be fair. I mean, End is just super unbalanced at the moment, and is basically massively influencing this tier list. You can either build a first item into... You know, you can use Ginsu's, you can use Runance. I prefer Runance than maybe Ginsu's third item, or you can just do Gale Force. You don't have to use Ginsu's, you can use Infinity Edge, but I think Ginsu's is... I mean, people are starting to realize that it's actually quite good on Ashe. I only just noticed myself the other day how like, pretty decent the win rate is compared to Infinity Edge. Why are people doing Bork third item? What the... You can see 59% win rate on the Infinity Edge third item, and we find Ginsu's over here, 61%. Very small sample size, so you can't like take it too seriously. But I mean, when you consider that even accounting for potential like deviation in the win rate because of the sample size, like considering how cheap Ginsu's is compared to Infinity Edge, this shows that it's at the very least going to be like an even option, maybe even better. And that's even without accounting for Wit's End, which is a non-hit item, and Ginsu being a non-hit inflator. If you're building Wit's End, I think Ginsu is just really strong on Ashe at the moment. And Wit's End is indeed very strong on Ashe at the moment because Wit's End is very strong. So I think that makes Ginsu's make perfect sense. Yeah, Samira was really strong earlier in the season, got nerfed, currently versus pretty decent still with Shield Bow into Collector. Jinx, again, was super strong earlier in the season after she got buffed, but again has been nerfed. You want to build Kraken Slayer into Runans or Kraken Slayer into Phantom Dancer. Depends whether you want AoE or DPS. Which... my favorite champion. Also a very good Wit's End user. There's this Korean build that I've been trying out lately that does crazy amounts of AoE actually. You can see it's Titanic Hydra third item. It's some build the Koreans cooked up. Apparently, they're always coming up with crazy ideas, but even for them, this is pretty crazy. Yeah, this is a pretty good build, but actually, I think he's probably just even better if you just do like I think a lot of these cheesy builds like tank Kog'Maw, now this tankish Twitch build, I think they're really cheesy and like not. I think they are good, but I think people miss the point of why they're good. I think they're mainly good because Wit's End is broken. I think these builds are mainly just carried by the fact that Wit's End is super strong. And if you just follow up Wit's End with something like Guild Force or now your Ginsu's. Ginsu's is also, you know, just really good with Wit's End, as I've mentioned. I think that makes a lot more sense than building Titanic Hydra. I think this is actually probably quite decent on him. Pretty underrated. Or, well, not underrated at this point because quite a few people are starting to use this build, but I think Titanic Hydra might be better as a 5th, maybe 6th item. I don't think you want to do this 3rd. I don't think that's worth. I think you are much better off. Like, you can't take this winner too literally because you know, sample size is way too low here. But it has been a trend that I've noticed that Wit's End into Runans, or well, Wit's End into DPS items has generally just massively outperformed tank items on every ADC that people are starting to build tank on, you know? Just build Wit's End. You don't need to build full tank. Wit's End is broken. Yep, Jhin also super strong earlier in the season, got nerfed. Still quite decent though, with Guild Force into Collector or Guild Force into Stormwizard. Also think is a really underrated build. I think if you're using Fleet Footwork instead of Dark Harvest, I think you should be using Stormwizard second. I think Stormwizard is generally the better item. The only reason you want to maybe use Collector is because Collector has big synergy with Dark Harvest. But if you're not using Dark Harvest, just use Stormwizard. Yeah, we got Tristana, also been nerfed since the start of the season. Sivir, also been nerfed. But still quite decent with lethality builds. Crypt build is my favorite build. Probably not as good at the moment though. Callista, you know, would be C tier if I just took her win rate at face value, but fortunately I'm a statistical genius. Well, not really, but I mean I pay close attention to win rates and I dig deep and I think, hey, Wit's End is broken at the moment. Wit's End is a naturally good Wit's End user. What is her win rate when she's using Wit's End? Oh wow, that's a crazy win rate. Oh, Callista's not as bad as she looks then, so she's B tier. Purely because Wit's End is broken. Yep, Xayah, we've already been over. Same for Caitlyn. Kai'Sa, as I mentioned on my previous video, you know, another one of those champions that was super crazy at the start of the season. Really good champion for climbing with. Has been nerfed quite a few times though. In fact, I don't know why she's been repeatedly nerfed even after she stopped being the best. They just really wanted her down, I guess, because she was still being used in pro play, to be fair, but for solo queue, the nerfs were definitely way undeserved. Fortunately, I do think there is a build that is like kind of sleeper, not OP, but like pretty good, really good, which is Kraken Slayer into Phantom Dancer into Infinity Edge. Whereas the build that people are using involves, most people are using, involves Collector either second or third. the way you would build for this way is instead of going for this Rated Dark for the early Q evolve, you just build the straight Kraken Slayer. You just build, you know, just a regular ADC build. And with Berserker's Rush. And I think, yeah, I think this build is just straight up better than the Key Rush evolve builds. Both because I have been checking out this win rate for a while and it's been consistently a lot higher than these other builds. And also because I've tried it in game and it does feel, you know, the spike at 3 items is just so much bigger. You can really feel it. It just feels so much stronger. I also need to look into these like really weird hybrid builds that have popped up. Kraken Slayer into Wit's End, Asher's Tooth. That's some potential. Makes sense. Might make sense. I need to try it out. I haven't tried it yet. Worth looking into, both for me and you. But probably not going to be as good as I said, this build. If we're going to take my word, or trust me on my word, that this build makes Kai'Sa better than she looks, she would be somewhere in B tier, and I guess I would be back to C tier. But, yeah. Since I'm not 100% confident on that, we're just going to say she's still C tier. Varus, well, let's see. On-hit Varus, you know, even though Wit's End is really busted at the moment, as we've been over, and he's a good user, still no reason to pick him over Vayne or Kog'Maw. They do the same thing but better at the moment. He's just the weakest Wit's End abuser. He can also be built with Lethality, obviously, which is the most popular build on him right now. But, for his Lethality build, like, why would you ever play Varus when you can just play Sliver, who has a much better win rate with the same builds? I think the only way it makes sense to play Varus right now is on hit. I think on hit is not terrible, actually. But it's also just like, why would you play him when you could play Vayne or Kog'Maw still? So leaving him B tier based off of the fact that the popular build is Lethality, and it's just terrible. Can't even recommend on hit either because he's just still the worst option for that, even if it's not terrible. And Lucian, yeah, Lucian is still being tormented by the fact that his mid lane version is just so much better than his bot lane version in pro play. In pro play, mid lane Lucian is really strong. And that means that he has to be nerfed really hard. Even though in solo queue he's, you know, if you look at his solo queue win rate, it's even worse than his mid lane win rate is even worse than his bot lane win rate. But it has to be nerfed because of mid lane anyway, which leads to his bot lane win rate being dog shit. I think Riot are exploring ways to try and break him out of this cycle. I did see they had some like changes on the PB, some really weird changes for Lucian. It was like he's buffed when he's getting a shield from his support or something. I think there was also something about maybe giving him extra damage on when he's following up CC. You know, just these really weird changes to try and make him stronger with a support compared to when he's solo. Those didn't go through. I don't know if they're gonna keep experimenting with those, because to be fair, I think that would be a really weird way to try and fix this champion. I don't know how you can fix this champion, to be fair. It is just so frustrating. He should not be this weak, but he kind of has to be. I hope they find a solution eventually, because he's a really fun champion. He deserves to be better than this. But until then, bottom of D tier. There you have it. That's the updated 11.15 ADC tier list. Hope you guys found this helpful. Let me know if you want to see another tier list for the next patch. If there are any updates to, you know, if I underestimated the Caitlyn buff, if I overestimated the Xayah buff, if I underestimated the Xayah buff, to be fair, which is probably the most likely thing here, I will maybe update this tier list later on in the patch as well. We'll see. Like, it definitely, if I'm way wrong about the Xayah buff, for example, and she's now like A tier, for example, I'm definitely gonna be very fast to update that, because that's gonna be very exciting news. Also, make sure to keep your eyes peeled for the Ashcan release. Should be tomorrow, the 22nd of July. Champion looks fun as fuck. I don't know if he's gonna be a good bot lane, to be fair, but I'm gonna see what I can do to make him work there. If I can't, I'll definitely be playing him on mid lane. You'll definitely see a bit of Ashcan on my channel. I hope you're really excited for that, because I'm very excited for him. He looks very fun. So yeah, that was it. About it for today for this video. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Later, gamers.